He broke down in the gym. What happened later shocked everyone. The gym echoed with cruel laughter. A young fighter stood in the center of the mat, eyes filled with tears, fists trembling, not from weakness, but from the weight of what he was, holding back. His name was Eli. He had just been humiliated not by a knockout but by something worse, mockery. Around him fighters smirked and coaches looked away, disappointed. "He's too soft," someone muttered. Another voice whispered, "He'll never make it." Eli left that day broken, but not defeated. No one knew what storm was brewing behind his silence. He vanished from the gym, cut off all contact, and trained in shadows. Pain became fuel, isolation became armor. But why had he cried? And what was he hiding? Months passed. The gym moved on, until the doors swung open. Eli returned, not with words but with fists that told a different story. One by one, the same fighters who laughed would step into the ring and fall. Something had changed. He wasn't just fighting opponents. He was facing ghosts, rage, and a truth no one saw coming. What had he endured? What had he become? This wasn't revenge. This was something deeper, and by the end no one dared to laugh again. Eli wasn't always the quiet one in the gym. Just a few months ago, he was the kid who arrived early, wrapped his hands with care, and trained until his knuckles bled. He wanted it more than anyone. But behind that focus was something heavier. He was carrying the weight of a family falling apart. His mother had been sick for months. Hospital bills piled up, and Eli worked overnight shifts just to keep food on the table. Every punch he threw in training wasn't just to get better, it was to escape. No one knew what he was going through, and he never said a word. Fighters are supposed to be tough. So when his coach snapped at him for being slow during sparring one day, Eli's emotions cracked. In front of the whole gym, he broke down. They laughed, the other fighters, even the assistant coach. "You crying in here?" someone said. It echoed louder than any punch he'd ever taken. Eli rushed out, ashamed, angry, and humiliated. That night he made a decision. He would never return until he became unrecognizable. He found a grimy, out-of-the-way gym on the edge of town. No music, no mirrors, just silence, sweat, and pain. The trainer there didn't ask questions. He only watched Eli train until he collapsed, then helped him up and told him to do it again. Day after day, Eli pushed himself deeper into exhaustion. His body transformed, but so did his mindset. He stopped fighting to be accepted. He started fighting because he had nothing left to lose. Then came the news. His mother had passed, alone. Eli didn't cry, he didn't speak, he just trained harder. Something inside him went quiet and cold. By the time he returned to his old gym, no one recognized him. He had grown broader, sharper, and his eyes were different. He signed up for open sparring rounds. The same fighters who mocked him were now stepping into the ring one by one. They still thought he was weak, but something was waiting behind his silence, a force they didn't expect. And when the first punch landed, the room fell still. Eli wasn't. Back to prove them wrong, he was back to finish something they never saw coming. The first fighter stepped in, smirking. Eli didn't say a word. The bell rang, and within seconds the smirk was gone. Eli moved with precision, each strike calculated, merciless. The fighter dropped hard. No one clapped. They didn't know how to react. Eli simply turned, walked, back to the corner, and waited for the next name to be called. One after another they came, and they fell. The gym grew quiet. The same people who had once mocked him now avoided his gaze. But Eli wasn't after revenge. He wasn't even angry anymore. He was empty. Then he saw him, Coach Darren, the man who had once promised to make Eli great, the same man who watched him cry that day and said nothing. Now, Darren wouldn't even meet his eyes. That night, as Eli sat alone in the locker room, her voice broke the silence. It was Mason, the only fighter who had never laughed at him. Mason handed Eli a photo. It was of his mother. Eli froze. "How do you have this?" he asked. Mason looked down. "She came to the gym a week before she died. She was looking for you. Begged Coach Darren to reach out to you. He never did." Eli couldn't breathe. She said you stopped answering her calls, that she wanted to say goodbye. Eli stood up, fists clenched. The one person he had fought for. He never got to say goodbye because of the one man he had trusted most. Coach Darren hadn't just betrayed him in the ring. He had taken something irreplaceable. Eli stormed out of the locker room, heart pounding. His world had just cracked, open again. The next morning Eli returned. He didn't come to spar, he came to confront. In front of the entire gym, he stood across from Darren. You let her die thinking I abandoned her. The room went silent. Darren, older now, didn't deny it. You were soft. I thought cutting you off would make you stronger. Eli stared at him, not with rage, but with something deeper. Disgust. I didn't come back for revenge, Eli said. I came back because I needed to know who I was without your voice in my head. Then he walked out. No fight. No grand victory, but the gym was never the same. Eli's silence had said everything, and in that moment he wasn't just a fighter, he was free. Eli never returned to that gym again. Word spread quickly about what happened, about the truth. The boy. Fighters who once laughed at him now trained in silence, haunted by the weight of what they'd ignored. Coach Darren resigned days later. No speech, no goodbye. Eli found a new place, a quieter gym tucked away behind a row of shuttered stores. No crowds, no noise, just space to breathe. He trained alone, but this time not to prove anything. Not to silence anyone. He was building something new, something his mother would have been proud of. Every strike now carried her memory. Every breath was a promise to himself, not to become someone better, but to become someone honest. Someone real. One evening, after a long session, he sat on the mat, sweat rolling down his back, the lights above casting soft shadows. He reached into his bag, pulled out the old photo Mason had given him, and placed it gently beside his gloves. He whispered, I didn't forget you. The room was quiet. Outside, the sky faded into dusk, and for the first time in years, Eli stood, not to fight, but simply because he could. That night, the fighter didn't cry. He healed.